No.
She's coming.
No, we don't need one.
We don't need one. Okay.
Ready? I want to call to order the January 23rd Seabrook City Council meeting. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay. Item 1.1, public comments and announcements. At this time, we would like to listen to any member of the audience on any subject matter, whether or not this item is on the agenda. All comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for each speaker, shall be limited to city business or city-related business or matters of general public interest, and shall not include any personal attacks. In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, members may not discuss or take action on any item that has not been posted on the agenda. When your name is called, please come to the podium and state your name and address clearly into the microphone before making your comments. Terry Moore.
Terry Moore, 2709 North Meyer. Tonight down in 5.10 about communications. How many people here know how many weather stations are online available for you to look at any time? 20, just here. If you zoom out and include Highway 45, that number will go up to about 100. So you can find out real fast what's going on. And I'm kind of thinking about when we had a little, it wasn't even a tornado, it was just a lot of wind. And I got a crazy alert on my phone. But let me talk about communication strategies. And this has been going on for a while. It's better this year, but it has been worse in the city of Seabrook before. So maybe give an empowering tone, collaborative language. Here's something to try. If you're really scared, you might drip your faucets. Here are 2 other weather sites that you might look at if you don't believe the National Weather Service because they're in cahoots with the insurance companies. You could try Space City Weather, Weather Underground, and look at any of those 20 stations, including the new one at the sale place here on Toddville. Avoid commands. You should. You must turn your water off right now. Acknowledge the audience's expertise. You know your situation best, but maybe if you unhook your water hose, it won't break. And here's a few examples that you might try. Explain the why, not you need to recycle now. More like recycling helps reduce landfill waste, and here's how to make it easy at home. Focus on choices. Present multiple options. If you don't want to drip your faucets all night, maybe you can wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning like I did and do it for just a few hours during the coldest part of the night, rather than a single choice. Look at the National Weather Service. They know everything. They didn't know about COVID, and if you've been watching the news this week, they didn't know about a lot of things. One thing about the weather is maybe the fire department could help because you know all of the local fire departments talk to each other. So they know pretty fast. If there's something going on, they'll know. We need to learn 365-day prep around here. I was going to ask, my first question was, who's ready every day, 365 in Seabrook? I am. I have a food stash, a water stash, fuel stash, a small generator for electricity. So I would suggest that everybody do that too. That way you won't go to Kroger's and find out there's no bread or milk or anything else down there. So thank you very much.
Thank you. J.P. Byers.
appreciate you letting me speak. My name is J.P. Byers.
I don't think your mic's on.
Sorry. Thank you. That is much better. My name is J.P. Byers. Thank you for letting me come up here and speak. I think there's a couple of misunderstandings about the city of Seabrook. So I went ahead and I pulled up some statistics for demographics. I apologize for the city of Seabrook. Right now, right here at the gas station, if you do a 1 mile demographic, the average household income is roughly $115,000 a year for a household income. If you push it 3 miles, it drops down to $93,000 per house or per household here in this area. Seabrook is roughly 5.6 square miles, not including water. When you include water, we're like 21 square miles, something like that. 5.6 square miles though of actual inhabitable area. I find it interesting that the average is somewhere between 93 and 97,000, or 3 mile square foot or 3 mile radius from right here at this gas station. And for some strange reason, we think that it's okay to spend $93,000 on a sign study. We've already spent $120,000 designing a police station, courtroom, and all that stuff that's been turned down once the first time we spent $85,000. We decided that we wanted to spend another $40,000 to redesign it so that it can get turned down again, because nobody in Seabrook, regardless of the location, thinks we need an $18 million police station. We want our police to be well-funded, well taken care of, and yet we still keep wasting money. And here's another time when we're sitting here spending $93,000 on a study for signs. Not $93,000 on signs that could beautify our city. $93,000 to study our current signs and come up with a new design. I was doing some research. I didn't know that our city manager, it's a state law in Texas, that city managers can spend up to $50,000 on studies like this without council approval. So this one has to be approved by council today. Unfortunately, I feel like it's going to be a strong 5-2 vote to approve it, and that's just kind of normal. But when we look at other cities limit their city manager from $10,000 to $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 when you look at cities our size on city manager approval, which means almost everything that would come through here would have to be approved by council. I'm just appalled that we're sitting here acting like we have some super deep coffers when we know that we're about to lose apartment complexes on Repsdorf. If we do, by some miracle, happen to pass a new police station, it will very likely be to put it in over here at the corner of Repsdorf, another $2.5 million that we're going to have to spend in order to get that taken care of. And that we act like we've just got this massive amount of cash when the average household income is $115,000, and we want to act like the groceries I went and spent the other day for 2 days worth of food was $150. We act like $200 is nothing to these people. Some other things I thought was funny was if you look at the demographics in our area, we actually have probably one of the highest voting averages here. There are 13,500 people that live in the city limits. Of those, almost 10,500 of them are actual voters. 9,000 of those are actual registered voters, roughly. And when you look at the actual number of people who are working, I was really surprised at how few weren't retirees. But the number of people that work here that are making the average household income of only $115,000 within a mile of this place are in between the ages of 44 and 65 years old, which means this is pretty much where they're at until they retire. These are workers. These are people who clean your ditches out, take out your trash, come home with grease under their fingernails. understand all the same things, and we're not being plain enough to them. But I guarantee you that they can see $93,000 on a docket that we're about to spend, and they go, I didn't even make that last year, and we're going to spend it to a sign study. It's appalling that this is even on our agenda for tonight. And guys, I already know, like I said, I already feel pretty strongly it's to be a 5-2 vote if this big screen is for Joe. Otherwise, it'll be a 5-1 vote. But I don't understand it. And I wish to God y'all could actually explain it to us instead of me just sitting here talking about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Berger?
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Bill Berger, 2418 Blue Canoe Court. I've been a homeowner in Seabrook for nearly 20 years, since 2006. I also serve as a board member and secretary of the Lake Cove Community Association. Lake Cove, as you know, is community bordered by Nassau Road 1, Repsdorf, just to the west of 146. Wanted to address agenda item 5.2, the sound barrier study. This is an issue that we on the board of Lake Cove and at our annual meeting have spent a lot of time talking about the increase in the noise that is coming from the overpass. As I understand it, the last sound study was done back in 2013, prior to the overpass, and when there was a much greater natural barrier just from trees and buildings. And so the sound has become incredibly loud in our neighborhood. In the last week, we conducted a poll of our homeowners. We have over 500 homeowners in our community. 15% of them voted on a proposal, would you be in favor of a sound study or opposed? Fully 93% of those voted in favor of doing a sound study to determine if the sound has had a negative effect. So that's overwhelmingly positive by our residents. I can say our members on the board are also fully behind a study to help reduce the amount of noise coming from the overpass. So thank you very much. Appreciate your attention.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, 1.1, Mayor and City Council or members of city staff may make announcements about city community events.
Well, good evening. We have Coffee with a Cop coming up in the end of February, Friday, February 28th, 9:30 to 11 at Damn Fine Coffee and Fried Pies. They have damn fine coffee and some damn fine fried pies. You got to go by there and check it out. The last day to apply for a place on the ballot for the general election is Friday, February 14th here at City Hall. The last day to apply for a place on the ballot for a special election, which only involves position 1, is Monday, March 3rd, also here at City Hall. Any additional information on the elections, you can find it at seabrooktx.gov/elections, and that includes everyone who has currently applied for the election. Is there anything I've missed?
Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Mark. 2.0, the consent agenda. 2.1, approve the minutes of the January 7th, 2025 City Council meeting. 2.2, approve and ratify the city manager's appointment of Ashley Gadd to the Civil Service Commission to replace Byron Hanson and fulfill the term to expire June 1st, 2025. And 2.3, consider and take all appropriate action on ratification of a business development incentive agreement by M. Jones Seabrook Operating LLC as approved by the Seabrook Economic Development Corporation on October 12, 2024, in accordance with the previously posted business incentive program project resolution for restaurant improvements at 1818 Nassau Parkway in the amount not to exceed $200,000.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, he's on. Thanks, Joe. Scared me. 3.0, boards and commissions. Consider and take all appropriate action on the approval of applications for membership on the Hotel Occupancy Tax Board.
Yes, Mike and I met with the two hoteliers, and we have three candidates. There's not on my paper, but the one candidate that they couldn't, I don't remember who the other person was. Do you have it pulled up? We never could successfully get, or Mandy could not get in touch with them, so we never interviewed them. Eli Andrews. And if we're still where we were before, I think we were going to suggest approving David Chen. How do you say his name? Rushi Patel, Kelly Hudson, and Kylie Wilson. I'd love for Adam Holland to find a place on another committee in the future, but that's it.
So does that fulfill our requirements that we've, Gail?
Pull up your resolution. So your board members, I believe you wanted the two hoteliers, or two lodging facility representatives, two council members, two citizens. So I believe you guys have fulfilled that.
So this does fill it.
So we've got two hotel representatives. We have two residents and then two council, so we're good.
Okay, any discussion?
Move to approve the recommendation for the HOT committee as presented.
Second.
You got something? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, new business. 4.1, consider and take all appropriate action on the approval of a proposal from Kinley Horn for professional services in the amount not to exceed $93,000 for the development of gateway, wayfaring, and park signage through funding by the Economic Development Corporation. This item was heard by the Development Corporation for funding consideration on January 9th, 2025.
Mayor and council, we do have representatives from Kimberly Horn in the audience, and they have a presentation leading up to the proposal as well. I thought I would also give some additional feedback on how we got to this particular moment. So we've had signage throughout the city, and prior to 146, prior to Hurricane Ike, and up in that far left corner, if you remember, we had the wooden directional signage around City Hall. Most of that was taken out in our parks, by Hurricane Ike. So we have replaced most of our park signage with over here on the right, and we've got some national sign plaza that was purchased by the Economic Development Corporation around town for wayfinding to city facilities and a few of the builders and a few of the districts. In 2017, prior to the construction of 146, City Council approved moving forward with an RFP that was put out to develop a branding plan. The branding plan was twofold. At the time, the City Council wanted to make sure that we had aesthetics built into the highway, thus the sails that we have out here, the logo, the different coping, everything that was a little bit different. It became the Bay Area scheme. So the council and the mayor at the time was meeting with the director of TxDOT. A lot of those amenities, once we hammered those out with this consultant back in 2017, emerged from this branding plan. In the branding plan also was the directional signage, the concepts of what a sign family would look like, but that was basically a conceptual plan at that point. Areas were somewhat identified, all at a conceptual level. This is difficult to see, but with that particular consultant, when we got most of the highway aesthetics hammered out, we then moved over to TxDOT and we worked on the advanced funding agreement. We decided what TxDOT was going to pay for, what EDC was going to pay for, and that project was wrapped up. However, a lot of the concepts that was in the branding plan were signage gateway. So we had a number of different concepts that are in that master plan. Nothing that was confirmed at the time. The highway had not even started at that point, but these were based on surveys and community input, different concepts that they would like to see. From there, as time progressed, we've done other master plans. Seabrook Open Space and Parks Master Plan in 2020 identified also that the standardized signage be updated throughout the parks and the trail system. And then council, during their strategic planning session, also identified that the signage program, not only for the businesses, but for the tourism aspect, become a key priority for the city council. At that point, we kept it on the city's capital improvement plan, or what we call the CIP. And I know we've talked about the CIP a number of times, and where did the $1 million come from? $1 million came from the first branding plan that we had. So there was some conceptual estimates, all that got produced from that first study. So the $1 million is not a set in stone. We've got to decide which sign family, if any sign family, you would like to proceed with. So that's where we are today as far as how did we get here. I'll go ahead and invite Kimberly Horn up as well. And they've got a few examples just to kind of, as you're deliberating this item, to make sure that you understand some of the terminology and sign families to develop if you want to move forward, and the sign families. So I will go ahead and switch to presentation, and your presentation's on there on the desktop.
Oh, do I open it?
Oh, yeah, it's
Sorry,
right.
I was like,
Sorry, it's on the desktop. There you go.
Thank you so much. My name's Christina Malik. I'm with Kimberly Horn. Thank you for allowing us to present to you this evening. I'm serving as a principal in charge on this project. Alongside me is Shannon Mundy, who'll be serving as project manager. And then also joining us is DG Studios. I have Dawn Diamond here today. She's part of our team, and they're a design consulting firm. A wayfinding consulting firm. Based on the feedback we heard at the economic development meeting earlier this month, they shared a desire to scale back on some of our proposal and also to see some examples of what the end deliverables would be. So we thought it might be helpful to present a case study that aligns with the scope that we'll be providing you guys, that builds upon the branding study that y'all have already completed in further detail. So these will share some examples from other cities of something similar that you could expect as a end result of the scope of work we're presenting tonight. So I'll pass it over to Dawn to walk through those.
So the two projects I'm going to show you are for the city of Corpus Christi and then a much smaller city in central Texas, up between Houston and Dallas, the city of Palestine. And I'm showing you two projects because some of the deliverables are available in the Corpus and some are available in Palestine. The Corpus Christi project is ongoing right now, and the scope of work that we have proposed on for you is the scope of work that we are just now wrapping up with them. And because they have not published any of this information, I don't want to show designs yet. The city of Palestine, they began installing their signs in December, so I can show you everything from that project. It's not proprietary. I haven't divulged anything I shouldn't. So in schematic design, we come into the community and we spend a lot of time on the ground. And one of the things that we do is we come at it from an outside perspective. I had been to Corpus Christi once for scouts. I spent a night on the Lexington with my boys, and then we drove straight home. I know there's great beaches there, but I'd never been to them. So for me, I'm driving into town and I'm trying to get my handle on what there is to do, and I'm seeing it the same way every other visitor without any orientation sees it. So we come in and experience the city. We drive through it, we drive across it, we get our hands on every single piece of tourist information we can, and then we go out exploring and try to find all these different things. And we frequently find that stuff we've been told is really awesome is out of business, stuff that, has gone away. And it was especially bad. This project kind of kicked off right after COVID, and a number of things didn't survive it. So a lot of the destinations we were looking for weren't there. But in coming and experiencing the space, we start to determine what are the best routes for people to come through your community and experience it. And some of that's based on convenience, but some of it's also based on putting your best foot forward. One of the things we've really strongly emphasized for Corpus, because it's very much a highway city, you can get to the beach and never set foot in Corpus Christi. So we're really trying to, one of the things we pushed for was a scenic route. If you drive along the bayfront, there's a beautiful street that takes you relatively quickly to the beaches, to downtown, and you really feel like you're in a beach community. It's an incredibly different experience than what most people get because they stick to the highways. We come through and we start to understand what your districts are, what your destinations are. We pull together a list of every single thing your community has to offer. And then with you and your core groups, we go through them and we go through all the nitty-gritty to figure out what are the things that you really want to offer for people, what are the things you really want people to know about. And we whittle it down. We figure out where they are and what's the best way to get from one place to another. We start doing our analysis on our programming. Every single one of these numbered intersections is a decision point where somebody would have to make the right choice to get to where they need to go. We know that's where the signs need to go. And then we work with our team, including the client, to determine what they're supposed to say. From there, we can understand how many signs we're going to need at an intersection. This gives us our quantity so we can start doing our pricing with design. The black arrows are vehicular, the little feet are pedestrian signs. And for every one of those decision points, we know what people want to get to, what you want people to get to, and we all agree how we're going to get them there. And this is where I'm going to transition to another project, because from this is when we go into design. So for the city of Palestine, we got to the meat of it quicker because they had done their own work. They had already defined their pathways. They had already agreed on their destinations. We came in and all that was done. So we went straight into design and implementation. And we looked at different schemes for signage from pedestrian and vehicular, including interpretive and information kiosks. And you can see, I can't really point, but we always present our design with budgets, and it's hard to read the numbers, but each one of those little lozenges has the estimated cost of those designs. And that weighs very heavily into the decision about, it's not just aesthetics, it's what can we afford to build. And this was one of the most expensive schemes, and it was definitely nixed pretty quickly, basically out of cost. So then after that, we moved into design development, and we ended up kind of hybridizing two different designs. They really liked the green, they liked the side-mounted post, but they also wanted a really pretty fancy cast iron historic-looking post. All their street fixtures downtown are cast iron. It's a very old city, and they really wanted it to be in harmony with their community. And from here, you can see we've done all our budget exercises so they know what the parts and pieces cost. And we went through with their budget, and we literally picked and chose bits and pieces for each sign in order to fit it all into their total dollar amount. And we did it. So the signs started installing in December. Their biggest thing, they have done a tremendous amount of work for travel and tourism, and they do get a lot of visitors already, but they know there's a lot more they could have. And there's a ring road around Palestine. TxDOT did that so that people could bypass the city quickly and get to other things they're headed to. And they really wanted people coming through their town, because they get a lot of bypass traffic, to see these signs and go, oh, I never would have thought to stop in Palestine. I didn't know anything about it. And for me, driving to Palestine for the project, I was using Apple Maps, and Apple Maps did just that. I went past Rusk, I went past a number of towns that probably have charming stuff to offer, but I stuck to the ring road, I bypassed them, and nobody showed me anything that made me want to get off the road and check it out. So I just kept going and I went straight to Palestine. So they've had very positive reaction from the community. They're being received very well. The other signs are being installed right now. Those are the prettier single pole signs that are in the city on the more local streets. And that's where our process would end, at DD with our final design and our final destinations and the routes and intersections we know where things would be put.
Right, so to reiterate, what Don showed is our current proposal is good examples of. The next stage would be construction documents, and then bid, and then fabrication and final installation. So I'm gonna touch, just to wrap us up, with our current proposal, we have 10 meetings with the steering committee. That is a group of people that give input, guidance, and most importantly, design approval at each stage. And this would be a good cross-section of important stakeholders, including city staff and council members. Within those 10 meetings, we'll have 3 joint meetings with council and another group of stakeholders. So we want to be very transparent about the decision-making and what we're moving through this process. And then on the screen, you can, well, it's not there anymore, but quick schedule. For our current proposal, we've got about 10 months to do site assessment, DD, and the master plan of the signage. But then it could be a total of 2.5 years from site assessment to the signs actually being in the ground. So a lot of the timeline will be determined by review time from the steering committee and stakeholders, and also just scheduling the meetings since we want to have so many of them. So with that, I will turn it over for any questions.
Any questions, council?
I have a question. Tell me again that Palestine had the design development, or they had the site assessment schematic design? What was the
Not scream it at you. Sorry about that. Okay. They have a really robust travel and tourism program, and they had done a lot of the legwork to identify the destinations that were appropriate for a signage project like this. And they had already determined most of the primary pathways through the area.
So they included they had already done the site assessment task.
Exactly. And they had already vetted all of their destinations, and they had that down to a really tight laundry list. We lost 2 destinations. Again, COVID did some shutdowns, and 2 of those businesses, or 2 of the museums didn't rebound and reopen, so they were removed. That was a much more time-consuming task in Corpus Christi because there's a lot of stuff and everything needs to be included. So we did go straight into design, and we could do implementation programming for that and right into CDs. So because they'd done so much upfront work.
Gotcha. And we don't have any sort of guidance on that with the previous studies that we've done?
We have conceptual, so the master plan, we've taken a look at it with them to see what would be salvageable from that. So we did some conceptuals on a couple of family brands that you saw in the presentation, and then areas of focus. So your intersections, areas of focus, but we didn't get into that next level of, do we want to direct traffic to Pine Gully? Do we want to direct it to the trail system? Those weren't identified in that study.
So that was going to be my question, because I was on council then. And I remember us going through this in detail, and we spent that money then. And so, I'm opposed as well to spend this money when we already did it in 2017. I think collectively, and we could put a board together and figure out what we need to do. Our town is small enough to be able to do this in-house with what we already have from 2017. That's just my opinion. So,
I agree.
So I mean, as far as,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so the site assessment is probably what you're talking about. So the next part of that would be fixing on the design that came out of the master plan, as opposed to looking at additional signs. The gateway in particular was not decided on, so the gateways would have a lot more work as well.
drawings and stuff, but
Yeah, we had reduced the gateway in order to bring the fee down, so now we're at 78,000. That was one of the signs we had removed from the scope based on EDC's feedback. And we would be building upon the previous study. The previous study didn't provide enough information to be able to implement and install signs. So these would provide the next level of detail building upon that.
Okay, so one of the things, I was at the EDC meeting last week or the week before, and one of the things I was listening to was this whole thing that happened in 2017. This is why I think people get so confused. We actually did a study in 2017, and that's that conceptual thing that everybody thought we were getting a lot more plants underneath 146 instead of rocks. They had all these signs. So then all of a sudden we come to now. I was there a week or two ago when you guys were there, and we're going over this again, and we're gonna have to pay $93,000. We already paid for that one study. Now $93,000 for this study. It again goes back to communication, and it's always there's multiple things thrown in. It's never just one thing that we're voting on. It's always multiple things, and it's like, well, what we really meant on that was this, or at this we were trying to do this, and it's super confusing, and it upsets people. But here's the thing: the other part of this is you said that you were going to have, some people from the OST, possibly some, citizens, some people from council, but recent history said that doesn't happen. We were told that this was going to happen for the plants underneath 146. In recent history, which is recent, which is in, just the last few months, all of a sudden we found out not only were they not given any access to having a say, any citizen, open spaces and trail, or anybody on council, it was just all dealt with by one or two people and I quote this now, a very high, intense, closed door meeting, whatever that means. And if you break that down, it doesn't mean anything. But two people from our city negotiated with TxDOT, and we got a bunch of rocks instead of plants. So what prevents that from happening again, where all of a sudden we come back up in 3 or 4 or 5 months, and all of a sudden we start seeing signs and people go, what the heck happened? Well, a couple of your people just negotiated. So I'm a flat no. I'm not spending $93,000. I've already talked to a bunch of citizens. They're not going to spend $93,000 on signage or a study to do signs. And so I'm a hard no, and there's nothing anybody can say to me to change my mind on that, because I'm not spending $93,000 of anybody's money to look at signs. I'm done.
The concern about transparency is pretty clearly addressed in the contract with the 10-person steering committee and 10 separate meetings for that. I was talking about signs before I got elected 3.5 years ago. Perimeter signage, our businesses understand the importance of advertising. They understand the importance of having signs directing customers to where they are. We don't have that now. In support of our businesses and where they are, and in support of what we're trying to do to bring back Seabrook to what it should be, we have to have some plan for signage in some way, something directing people to where they need to go. Now, if this is not the answer, what is? I don't want to go away from here and we vote no for this, and we don't have another solution, because we haven't solved a problem that we've been dealing with, that our businesses have been dealing with for years. We should have signage directing people to the trails, to the parks that we have, to Old Town Seabrook and everything that it is, to so many other things that we have here in Seabrook. We're going to have a boat ramp here before too terribly long, if TxDOT ever gets to moving again. So there's a lot of things that we have to offer here that nobody knows about. How do we keep them informed? How do we attract people who are driving by? We have to have some kind of a signage plan. Again, if we vote no on this one, we still have the problem. We need to have another plan if we're going to vote no on this one. So what's another plan? Or we have to approve this and help our businesses in any way we can.
Hey, one more thing really quick. You just said something, Rob. You said that it's very clear on this proposal that there's going to be a 10-person committee. There was also a very strict proposal on 146 and NASA Road 1 for the plants and the rocks. There was supposed to be a committee, open spaces and trails, council and citizens. That didn't happen. So just by saying, oh, this is a clear plan, they're going to have 10 people, it didn't happen before. This is why it's frustrating. So just because it says in the plan there's going to be a 10-person committee, what's the guarantee? It didn't happen before, and that's what I'm talking about, recent history. And why do we need to spend $93,000 to tell us that we need people to come to Old Town Seabrook or old, that part, or to the trails or down to Carruthers or anything like that? We have a sign. We can make signs.
It's
just makes no sense.
This, by the way, is a contract, and the 10-person steering committee is in the contract. So
it was before.
It's something that these folks are required to do by contract. So I'm not concerned about that component of it. We could put up signs wherever we want to. Who's going to do the study to show where traffic is? Who's going to do the study to see where we can attract the most visitors? North 146, South 146. We need to understand those things before we spend money on signs that nobody's going to see. That's why, Joe, that's why these studies are important. And my first reaction was, wow, that's a whole lot of money for a study. So how do we figure that out? We can't just go randomly making signs and sticking them up and hoping they achieve what they're supposed to achieve. That's an absolute waste of money that I would in no way support. If we're going to spend the citizens' money, we need to do it on something that's going to help them and that we can prove will help them.
When a city truck gets a flat tire, do we do a study to figure out what to do? When they get running low on gas, guess we got to do a study to figure it out? No, you just figure it out. You get it done. You don't need a study, and especially $93,000 on signs. And yes, I think that there's people in this city intelligent enough to be able to figure out that we need a sign here, here, or here. They're called intersections. That's where you put them. And then that would direct them to Carruthers or walking trails, the heads of the walking trails, or whatever. So it would be quite simple. And our city is not like Corpus Christi, where we have a aircraft carrier or other cool items like that. We have some neat things like the fish markets and some pretty damn good restaurants, but we don't have a lot of we don't have a ship for them to come see or any other type of thing like that. So the signage, I think, would be quite easy. So obviously we were in disagreement, but again, I'm going to vote no on $93,000 for signs.
If I may, Rob's correct in terms of we've got to have some sort of signage to get people to our businesses. And it's not just the businesses on Main. Merlion's is very easy to find. Backyard, not so much. The Waffle House, not so much. Damn Fine Coffee, not so much. And if we are going to do an attraction to get people off 146 and into our community, it's got to be professionally looked at and not just a hodgepodge. We went through this drill over 20 years ago when some builders came in and they had 50 and 60 bandit signs along Repsdorf, along Red Bluff, pointing them to their various subdivisions they were selling. And they just got to the point, especially around Kroger, you could find 50 or 60 little signs all stuffed in the middle of the median. And yeah, $93,000 is a lot, but if we're going to, and this has been heavy on social media about small businesses, if we're going to attract niche businesses to come here and locate in Old Seabrook, we're going to have something to be able to say, hey, we're supporting you and here's how we're going to do it, signage to get you there. And not just, Bubba and Arlene going out with a 2x4 and some poster board saying, go over here. So, and as Rob said, we can do it today or we can do it tomorrow. It just really kind of comes down to that. If we're going to develop, the community with unique businesses to get people off 146 to come visit, we're going to have some sort of attraction. We went through this drill not long ago with the hotels. We had Mr. Chen coming up. So now we're going to have signage for the hotels. Why not Barge 246 or El Cabo to let them know where to go?
Mayor?
We've already spent so much time and money in the 2017 study. Like Mike said, there's been a lot of discussion on where we need signs. The city, itself has not changed. We haven't, it's gotten smaller, actually. I think we have already the focused areas that we need to get people to. So I would like to, and also, did we get any other bids? I mean, and what was the $1 million you mentioned a second ago? And what's the timeline?
So the $1 million was when we did the master branding plan. They came up with cost estimates for all the conceptuals in the plan. The $1 million was a accumulation of directional signage, wayfinding signage, not knowing which sign family council at this particular moment would want to start at. So as they'll kind of elaborate here in a minute, it really depends on council's decision on where you want to start. Is a gateway sign the most important? Is the highway signage, directional signage to the districts the most important? Is it old Seabrook district signage? Is it the park signage? Do you want it to have a nice uniform look that's professional with the branding? Or do you want Public Works to put it on reflectives? I mean, that's where we're at today. We just need to figure out, what does council want? The reason that we're here also is this has, since 2017, we've been talking about it on plans. So it's really up to council. I mean, it's trying to get some direction on where you want to go. What do you want the city to look like as far as your image and your brand?
Okay, and why is it 78, but it's 93 on here?
There's proposal 1 and 2. So this proposal was taken over to EDC first. Signage is an eligible cost for Economic Development Corporation because you're promoting businesses, tourism. It's also an eligible expense with hotel occupancy tax as well. So when we were putting this on the CIP in the funding column, you'll notice that it's under EDC probable funding, and so wanted to make sure that EDC was still a viable funding partner. They do see value in the program to fund this program, and so that was the first box I wanted to check. However, they also did not like the scope, the $93,000. So version 2 that's also attached in your packet is taking out some of those sign families, reducing what the study would be a little bit so that the cost would come down.
Okay, and so other bids, did we not bid this out?
So Kimberly Horn is one of our professional on-call services that's on our vendor list. Mm-hmm. So we are able to pull that without having to do a full bid.
And because it includes engineering, you're not able to bid that publicly. You have to go select a consultant, request a bid, and then cease negotiations with them, and then move on to the next. Just part of the public bid price process.
Okay, back to also, so I'm confused on why 93,000 is on here if ADC is recommending 78.
So I attached the two scopes, scope 1 and scope 2.
But I mean, why is it on the paper like that if that's what they're suggesting?
You're talking about for the actual item?
Right.
So the item did list 93, and I attached both scopes. So 93 or the 78,000 is attached as well to have this conversation to see what council would like to do.
No, see, that's what's confusing. It's either 93 or 78. If 93 is written, but 78 is to be considered, see, this is what frustrates. I can't begin to tell you how frustrated I get with that. And so does the citizen. Because they think it's 93,000. That's why. Why, if it's 78, didn't you put 78?
Joe, I believe EDC didn't have an option on the 78. It came to EDC as 93,000.
Right.
The discount was after the EDC meeting. So this is just what was approved by EDC. Now, they've come back with 78,000 or a reduction in costs. But EDC approves 93,000, which is what's shown on the agenda item.
Okay. But at the same time, like I said, we already did a study. It was done in 2017. So we've already paid money. I don't want to pay. I don't care if it's 78, 58, 38, 28, whatever. That's still too much. And the citizens have told me that. They don't want to spend more money on a thing. So I understand now between the 93 and 78 why that's on the agenda that way. I get that now. But at the same time, I'm still a hard no for any money spent on a study for signage in the city of Seabrook that way.
I agree, Joe.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, it is confusing, and I do think we definitely need signs. I mean, if you guys have been out to the Webster on Bay Area lately, they have a new little signage. It looks really nice for all their hotels and restaurants. I'm envisioning something like this, similar, but that's a big price tag for us, our little town, to swallow. So that's where we're at on that. What can we do to get to half the scope? I really feel like as a council, and we are the committee, the EDC should be the experts, right? Our EDC committee and council can help with that initial cost, because again, I don't think it's that hard on what we need to focus on. I mean, there's not that many businesses or variables in that. And you said it was a big chunk, sorry, because Palestine decided to not opt for that, so.
Well, for the last 5 years, we've certainly had some issues with the looks of the city and our businesses, either failing or not coming because of the highway construction. There isn't a single sign along 146 anymore that directs anybody anywhere. It was either taken down by Ike many years ago. We have no entrance sign to the city. Those were taken out. We're just unidentified at this point. Nobody even knows. We had a fight to get the word Seabrook on the exit sign to the 146 ramp. It said NASA. We don't want to be forgotten. We've got to have some type of draw for our citizens, for our businesses, and for our economy. We just can't put up a blank wall and say we're not here. Nobody knows we are. And we have to start looking at things like this. We need a professional assessment. I know we did one in 17, but that was kind of half an assessment. That was just an idea. It wasn't really, never came to fruition. We stuck it on a CIP for the last 8 years, and nothing's been done. And we're right back to where we are, square one, talking about it and not doing anything. So, if we want to grow this economy for the city of Seabrook, we need to have somebody recognize that we're here. And we can't do that by somebody out there waving a flag and saying, come see us.
No, I don't think we're not agreeing to that, Tom. We do agree to that, and I agree with everything you're saying, but I don't think we need to do a study. We already had a study done, and we could take that information, come to collect together as a EDC and us and maybe a couple of residents and come up with a theme and a design. We have pictures here, and then go out and get bids on how much this costs, and let's make this damn sign, make the signs.
Well, correct me if I'm
I'll
wrong,
add that
that's-
this is an implementable plan. So what you had is an idea, and so this is taking that idea into constructible documents so that you can get bids and budget for them. So it's building upon what you've done previously and getting it to the level that it can be bid.
Well, okay, then I'm with everybody else, that's fine, but then lower the price. I mean, because that's a lot for my residents and everybody to swallow, and, there's got to be a cheaper way to be able to consolidate this down some, because I have ideas already that I could see, and you know, maybe we could get a local business to even design it and build it for us and help our business locally. You know,
So I also worked with Texas City, which is probably a more kind of comparable community for y'all than Corpus Christi or maybe even Palestine. And the fees for that project are kind of in the same ballpark. And we master planned the entire signage, and they were adamant that they didn't want the money for building and installing it to leave their community. And I worked with them, and they identified different vendors in their community. These were not signage fabricators. And they were different shops that did metal fabrication. They had a vendor there that could do digital. And they took our drawings, and rather than bidding them out competitively, they fabricated and installed their signs. They did it themselves, and they did a really good job. There's a lot of flexibility in how you approach a project like this. And that previous plan, $1 million, is roughly kind of a standard number for turnkey everything from gateway signs down to tiny, historic markers and things like that. If that's not what you need, you don't have to build to $1 million. And there's a lot of ways to get to the end of the project. And if you guys are willing to do what Texas City did and bring that fabrication into the community, it can be done. And we've done it.
Gail, can you remind us where EDC gets its money from?
The quarter cent sales tax that's derived from sales originating in the city.
Businesses, right?
Any business that collects sales tax, yes.
Okay, but it's not coming from our budget. This is EDC's money that they've collected, correct?
Correct. So then we have general fund, which is the general coffers where we have operating maintenance for most of the city departments. We have the economic development sales tax, which is a different corporation that drives the quarter cent sales tax. And then hotel occupancy tax, which is the 7% additional tax that is in a separate fund. So EDC is a special fund of itself. HOT is a special fund of itself, separate than general fund.
And they've already approved it. This is their idea. They feel strongly about it, correct?
We've partnered, so there's been a number of joint meetings between EDC and council through the years that the mayor may mention that we've had it on the CIP for years. So it was always understanding that if HOT or EDC, this is an eligible project, why take it out of general fund? So that's how EDC got involved.
so is it coming out of EDC?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, EDC did nod their head as far as they don't like the 93,000. That's where scope 2 came in.
Our small businesses need the signs. There's no question about that. They need something in some way to direct people off of 146. I'm not sure that this $78,000 is a lot of money. If it included the signs and some other things, maybe. I'm struggling with the $78,000 or the 93 or however you want to put it. But
Well, if,
small businesses definitely need some signs. We need to figure out a way to get people off 146 to our businesses.
Well, and clarify this as well. We're at step 1 of a different step, which is the drawings. At some point, drawings will cost another fee for us to get it over to fabrication, whether it's in Seabrook or outside of Seabrook, that we will bid that project. So this is a cost. In addition, there'll be another proposal at some point if you wanted to proceed with the project that you'll have an engineer actually put those drawings together to go to a fabricator. So there's additional fees to this process. But we don't have anybody on staff. We could take a picture to, one of the trophy shops, but it really depends on council, your image of what you want for the city. If this is not the project, then, it's been on goals, so I just need to know if the goals have changed.
well, we've talked about, the $1 million cost for branding our city. This is a piece of the $1 million. If we don't spend the $1 million in fabrication, we still have to get from point A to point B. This is just the first part. So we cut $78,000 out of the budget for fabrication, and we're in it's the same cost. So I'm a little confused as to why, we're going to spend this money in steps. We have the program that you're coming up with. We have the design development project, then we have the construction documents, and then we have the fabrication and the placement. That's an overall cost. This is the first piece of that overall cost, as far as I can tell. Do we want to stop and not go into the whole process? Stop right now? That's what's in front of us. Because if we don't have this first piece, we're not going to get to the end. You know, if it's 78 out of $1 million, I mean, we got to spend money to make money, and we got to make money in this town. And so I don't want this to fail, and I don't want, you know, Joe Bob putting these signs together. So, you know, if council wants to stop the project and keep it on the CIP for the next 10 years, fine. I'll vote for that too. But I think we need to get started. It's been on there long enough. The highway's done. We need to brand our city, and we need to help our businesses.
On this, sorry, what's the timeline on the study? I never got that answer.
10 months for the scope of what we have right here, just given the number of meetings that we're wanting to engage with the community and you all, and just the typical response turnaround time to make decisions. We can obviously move faster, but that's a very typical timeline.
Let me ask one more question. How much more work on that original project would the city need to get your fee down again? In-house? What would be something that the city could do in-house to get your fees down?
The portion that you might be able to do would be what Palestine did, where you identify what your critical pathways are, where all your destinations are, and you choose those intersections and those routes to connect them both efficiently and via the most welcoming and attractive, hospitable routes. So you'd need to have your fully vetted list of destinations with all the names agreed upon. Identify your routes. And even though Palestine had done that, there was one route we did change. It was the most direct route to their visitor center, but it was also hands down the ugliest and most blighted stretch of street in the whole town. So we convinced them to take a slight detour.
So with that, if we did that in-house, then you could go directly into a DD package, design development package? SD.
SD, yes, which would be the different concepts with the different costs associated. And then from that, usually what happens is the combo platter. It's like, ooh, we like this, we like that. And then we can put them into one design.
Right.
And then we get you tighter budget numbers.
Is that a substantial cost, or is that peanuts? We took that out.
If you can produce the deliverables, if you can produce the deliverables for us for the analysis, which would be the maps with all the routes highlighted, your key intersections and your locations marked, and your vetted list of destinations and the decision points with destinations for each one, that takes a lot off my plate. I can focus on the design.
I mean, we drive it every day. I feel like it's weird to have somebody else come in and say, oh, well, we'll figure out the best route. When we don't, our city's not that big. I mean, we have 2 major intersections. That's it. I mean, I can't imagine us not being able to do that part.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, and yet when we come in and suggest different routes, there's a lot of logic to people that aren't familiar with your city sometimes that can't be seen by people that live here every day and have done it a certain way and literally see it a certain way. So if y'all want to take that on, that would be fine. I would say still give us a little bit of time to go through what you did and just be able to make recommendations. Otherwise, we're going to take it as it is, and you get what you get.
Right.
No, we'll still consult with you, I think, but I think a lot of that stuff can be done in-house. You know, we'll still need your assistance.
Okay.
You know, a meeting here or a meeting there, but to not physically come down and plan routes and sign locations and things like that, I think we could do that in-house. I don't know who, but we'll find somebody to.
Okay, and one thing I wanted to You've talked about a lot of small businesses. Are you literally thinking the coffee and pie place is going to be on a sign?
Yes.
Or are you thinking it's a district and they all benefit by people being sent to the district? Because it's extremely expensive and very difficult to maintain a signage system with private businesses on them because they go out of business.
We understand. I think there are, I think we can get buy-in from most of our businesses to help defray if they're interested. So I think that, yes, I think it's important that a lot of our dish need to be done.
Okay.
Didn't we did a livable studies in 2021, that was 195,000. And I think it said something about to the district, which would be the old Seabrook district. But also, you could list, once you're at the district, then those businesses could possibly be listed. But there again, there was a $195,000 study. I know that wasn't on signage, but it talked about routes and things to do and possibly changing.
And actually, that would be a very relevant study for us to look at.
Yeah.
That could actually have accomplished.
That was just for Old Seabrook.
Right.
Okay.
It was just one district.
But that philosophy that study described is correct.
Right.
Because you're going to have more and more businesses as things grow, and you can't have a sign with 20 things on it. TxDOT won't let you, it's not safe.
That was an
not practical.
That was an HGAC project.
If that study would actually be very relevant, very helpful.
Right.
And what they did for that one district is what you would need to do citywide.
Okay, so
I know we don't have a number on that, and I don't expect you to give. I know we don't have a number on that, and I don't expect you to give us a number right now, but, I wouldn't be opposed to doing something and getting back with us with a number, but approving something tonight so we can get them moving, because we do need these signs.
well, but that, again, we've got a lot of upfront work before they go into a SD package.
Yeah, there's no point in doing design without that groundwork having been completed. That's just wasted money.
So is that the direction we want to go? I don't think we have to take a vote on that. It's just the direction.
I want to make sure I understand. We're talking about giving city staff guidance to identify every intersection, where every sign should go, and generally what should be on every sign.
No, not what's on it, just where the
Or just location. Just general location for
They're gonna
every sign
design-
that's appropriate.
Design the signs.
But we would need to have an idea of what the
Yeah.
message is at those intersections.
Right.
Because we have to
Right.
design a sign that can carry it.
And would you also need traffic flow, general traffic flow toward the destination? For example, if we had a battleship in Seabrook, would that get a bigger sign than a great restaurant?
So typically with wayfinding, private businesses are not included unless they are a large attraction that generates a certain amount of destination traffic, either annually or seasonally. They also have to be businesses that are open generally 7 days a week, where someone calling to get information would be speaking to a human being. Some ticketed attractions are private destinations, but if they have a volume of visitors to justify it, they're included. Like TxDOT, they have guidelines for who they give, a guide sign to. I don't know if you're familiar with Placer AI, but it provides all of that data for various businesses. It tells you where people are coming from. It's very helpful for analyzing whether a business is getting a lot of local traffic, whether they get a lot of outside traffic. It also gives you information on where people go from one place to the other. So if there's cross-traffic between certain destinations, these are all the things that should be considered.
I'm just not confident that we have the expertise or the time or the software to fully recognize all the implications of what we're doing. Remember, this is a 30-year decision. This is not something we're going to come back and change a year later because, we put that sign in the wrong place. And so we have to think of it long-term. I'm just not entirely comfortable asking the city to do the level of detailed work that is outlined in the scope of services here.
And it was Travel and Tourism in Palestine that did all of that work, and they had really excellent data to build on. So what we got was very complete. We really could move on it. They really knew what they were doing. And it is a large part of what they do already.
Well, essentially, we only have 4 major districts in town. I mean, we got Old Seabrook, The Point, Mass Road 1, and Highway 146, the business district. I mean, it's just, well, that's a park. I'm talking about business.
We also have a new committee that we just put together that could also help with this. The Hot Tax Committee could help with this as well, and that would be a great project for them to assist. I mean, that's just my opinion.
And also, I didn't realize that Wayfindings did not offer business names. So none of the signage, project, study, design, any of this has any Old Seabrook or any Tookies or any of that on any sign, right?
No, Old Seabrook as a district would definitely be a featured destination.
So it'd just be the district. You wouldn't know what you'd be going to see or eating at.
When you get there,
Once you get there.
signs that feature private businesses, typically they tend to be more of an orientation map where it shows you the district and then a numbered dot and the listing of all the businesses and what they are, much like you'd see in a shopping mall when you're trying to figure out where food is or clothing or bathrooms, something like that. Actual turn-by-turn directions, those become extremely expensive and difficult to maintain because businesses do come and go so frequently. And there's nothing worse than seeing outdated, inaccurate signs and people trying to go to things that aren't even open anymore. It does become a logistical nightmare to manage. That's why most cities,
You know, we're like,
don't know any projects.
And that's
that-
the problem we had with the old signs around the corners. Businesses coming and going. Half the time they were empty.
okay, because we're a smaller town than Palestine, and Texas City is massive compared to us. So, I mean, that's no comparison. Corpus Christi, we're not even 14,000 people. I mean, I want you to realize that we haven't driven around. It's not that big.
Well, I live in the Heights, and your community feels a lot like my small town that I live in the middle of Houston. So I get it.
So Mayor and Council, if I might, I think what I'm hearing is task 1 and task 2 of the second proposal. There's maybe some additional negotiation that we can look at, come back to council. I think the first step is trying to figure out these services before we tackle who on staff is going to help with whatever we take out of here, or an advisory committee or whatever. But I can work with this team and come back with a third proposal. That's, I think, the direction.
And with Palestine, what we bid on was the plan they had put together. They showed us the programming they'd created. So we knew when we bid on it that it was good work that we could build on.
Which we have for Old Seabrook from 2021. So we could go off of that. I mean, I think we could totally scale back the price by trying to get some of that done in-house.
And something I want you all to think about, that ultimate big sticker price that you're working and building to, that $1 million. Like I said, $1 million is kind of a standard fee in the industry that is pulled out for a citywide program of that type. It does not by any means have to cost that. But if you are uncomfortable spending $5,000 to $12,000 on an individual sign, you're going to have problems down the road too. So I just want you all to take that under consideration.
And you paired out from your proposal, or carved out from your proposal, the gateways?
Yes, that's part of the revised proposal for the 78,000, remove the gateways.
And those are by far the most expensive type of installations. Those can cost anywhere from $25,000 to $100,000 to implement. They're a lot more complicated construction. There's a lot more engineering involved. There's a lot of work coordinating with TxDOT to get the permission and everything you need to be able to put it up. So those are big ticket items.
Okay. Well, I guess, do we need to give staff a recommendation as to what to do, Gail?
Yeah,
At this point, I don't think anybody's here ready to cast a vote on the number. So,
right, so if somebody will make a motion, if you're asking me to go back and negotiate, take off additional services and come back to council, that's the direction I'd be looking for?
well, I think first of all, we have to decide what we can and can't do in-house. We got to give them an idea of what they're going to be able to work with. So what can we do or can't we do in-house?
I think maybe the best thing to do is table this for now, bring it up for discussion at a future meeting, and define exactly what we're looking for, what the city's going to provide, what we're looking for consultants to provide, and go forward from there.
And provide city staff the opportunity to take a look and see what they actually can do, and what we can actually provide to try and get the cost down, as long as it moves forward. But this has been a problem for years. Our businesses are suffering because of it. We need to find a solution and find a way to get it moving forward.
Okay. So our staff numbers haven't changed. It'll probably be myself and one person out of public affairs.
Okay, just out of curiosity, I mean, I think we've identified the fact of the importance of this. If you need an additional consultant, staff, whatever, I mean, I think there would be, money well spent. So you just don't have to have the whole burden on yourself.
Well, but I think these are the consultants, so.
Okay, if we could just maybe step one, I could negotiate a little bit more and come back and give you, based on what they would need as a deliverable, what we can or cannot do on staff, and I'll report back to you along with any revision to this proposal. So if you could just give me maybe a motion in direction of.
Well, let me ask another question. Do we want to give them a number to try and say, what can we get for this?
I get that a lot on projects.
Mayor, there's no way they're going to be able to put a third option together until they understand the scope of the staff.
So I understand that. But if we say, all right,
to
we're
exceed.
going to spend 30,000, what can we get for 30,000? Tell me.
Off the top of my head, I can't.
Yeah, I understand that.
No, but we have a lot of clients that will come to us and say, look, this is all we can stomach. It's all we have.
Right.
And this is what we can spend to put it in the ground. Can you make that work? And sometimes, honestly, we can't.
Sure, I understand.
But other times, we cut back and we make it work. But it's just fewer choices, less options, smaller scope.
Is that something that council wants to look at? I mean, Councilmember McCole said no matter what the cost was, he didn't want it, so. Does anybody else think that we can give them a number?
I think it'd be premature to put a number down until we figure out who's going to do what. If the city's going to come up and, figure out where they're going to place it, we're going to point to, what businesses, areas, et cetera, that we're going to have directional signs to, that's going to be the driver for the final cost. If we can do everything except the design of the signs, that's one thing. But let's figure out what we're going to do. What's our contribution? Then we can come back to you folks and say, here's what we're going to do. Then you can say, gee, and come up with a number.
As long as we acknowledge the time and the expertise that we're asking city staff to create out of thin air.
Well, one of the things the lady said from the study is that businesses aren't on the list. They're not gonna say there's gonna be a sign that says Merlion this way or Tookie Seafood this way or Dairy Queen this way. They're not gonna do that. So this is different signage, obviously. And I keep hearing people mention businesses, but she said clearly now, at least 3 times, the way I understand, it's not going to be individual businesses listed.
Is that-
As I understood, please correct me if I'm wrong, you also stated that directional signage leading people to specific businesses is an option, although it's not normally done by cities because of the maintenance long-term, but it could be supported by the businesses through EDC grants or something like that.
Yes, if you decide you want to take that approach, you need to determine what department in the city is going to own and manage that signage process. You'll have to have all your criteria figured out for how, and a process for how people apply to get to be on it, whatever the criteria is to allow them to participate, how much you charge them for that or don't charge for that. And you really ought to have it in writing because it can't seem to be arbitrary in any way. And then they need to manage those incoming applications. They need to be able to order signage. They need to be able to manage putting things on and taking things off. And there will come a point where your signs are going to be full and people are going to ask to be on them. And you may have to decide, well, these guys have been on here for a while. Maybe to be fair, we should take them off and let this new business be there. You got to figure all that out, and you've got to have someone who owns that and maintains it, in addition to whatever job they're doing for the city already. And they also have to have the contract set up in order to quickly get things fabricated and have things installed in a timely manner. So you'd want to have a fabricator set up to turnkey that with you.
But a single sign in a district listing the restaurants in that district is what we were, I think, talking about.
Right, much like you do for a multi-tenant sign at a large shopping area. Yeah, that's absolutely something that's done on a fairly regular basis, if that's what you're talking about. But literally turn-by-turn directions with arrows for every if you really wanted us to do it, I would die on that hill telling you it's a bad idea, but ultimately, if that's what you wanted, I'd do it. But you'd hear a lot from me in the meantime about why you shouldn't. But again, a multi-tenant directory in a district is a perfectly reasonable idea.
Well, I think the 2017 study didn't include that either, as far as I know.
Right. So part of what you're seeing on the screen right now is the levels or the sign families. So I think what you were saying earlier is, what do you put on the highway? Obviously, you can't put 20 restaurants on the highway level.
TxDOT will never let you.
So you do the district, you get them into the district, and then these sign families that you see from the branding plan, you could have the map with shopping here, eating here, those type of things, if you get people to foot traffic. But those are the kind of things we'll have to figure out. I don't have a sign specialist on staff, but we can figure out, I guess, different levels of deliverables that y'all would need in that area at those levels.
And for vehicular traffic, their ultimate destination is a decent parking space. So you're not directing them to the front door of the business. You're getting them to the closest parking where they can get out and then walk to where they have to go. So then you also have to provide a pedestrian sign to walk them there. So it's not door to door. It's to the logical parking and then on foot to where they need to go.
It's absolutely something we can consider. How we would do that, exactly what that would look like, and where those signs would go, well, that's what studies are for.
I mean, nobody likes to hear that somebody else could just easily do their job. I mean, I have to admit, it's kind of hard to stand here and here, but, and I'll tell you, I've come in and replaced a lot of terrible wayfinding systems.
Yeah, I don't think we're saying that. We're saying that, the cost for your expertise is a little bit
Yeah, I understand.
too much for us. So we want your expertise. We just don't want that much of it.
I get that. I do that to people all the time. I'm rebuilding my front porch since a tree fell on it, and I know exactly what you're saying.
So, I think there are some things we can do in-house, and I think that we can give you a little more information to maybe for you to look at and, pare your hours down.
Yes.
So we'll just need to talk about that.
Because right now, it's a blank slate to us. We kind of have to come in and figure it all out. But if you give us more information, that's less work we have to do.
Is that Okay with council?
Mayor, I think that's sufficient
Okay,
guidance.
I thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, 4.2. Consider and take all appropriate action on an interlocal agreement between the City of Seabrook and Harris County Public Health to provide aggregate data for the purpose of preventing and/or controlling disease, injury, and disabilities. Kevin?
Mayor, Council, this agreement was brought forth by Harris County Public Health to our EMS service. Wanted to just share data with us and vice versa. We share data with them for purpose of helping prevent, control disease, injury, or disabilities. So we're asking that,
Move to approve 4.2.
Second.
thank you.
I was hoping you were going to explain it more, but I guess not.
Robert can do a little more of the explaining on that.
Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Basically, what this does, it allows Harris County to get more real-time data. It allows them to get data when we have, let's say, for instance, a lot of overdoses in one area. Right now, they're getting that data, but they're about 4 weeks out. With this, they'll be able to monitor the PCRs, the patient care reports that we're putting in on a daily basis and see what's going on and see if there's a trouble spot that they can come in and help. And it also allows us to get a better partnership with Harris County to allow to have more benefits for the citizens. That's pretty much what it boils down to.
So just to make sure I remember correctly, reading the document here in front of us, there's no cost associated with it?
No cost whatsoever. It's basically just an agreement. That's all it is. To be honest with you, it's going to give us a lot more benefits. It's going to allow me access to basically a pool of Narcan that's not going to be charged to us. A lot of medications that I can get access to that is going to cut back our budget quite a bit. With the opioid crisis, pardon the expression, as bad as it has been over the years, they've put a lot of tools together to help EMS fight that in the field better. So, and also for PD as well. This is going to go out. Some of the stuff will be for PD also that we can get from Harris County that we didn't know was out there.
Okay.
So this is just not a verbal agreement to share data. It also gives you access to county resources that we don't currently have access to that can improve our responses to a variety of things, just both by EMS and PD.
That's correct. It's a partnership, basically. It's going to give us access to, we're going to have the epidemiologist, pardon me, I can't say that word, that's going to be looking at our data coming in from Seabrook and surrounding areas as well, and give us alerts if we have anything out there in a more real-time scenario. Like right now, of course, data to get back to Harris County is usually 3 to 4 weeks. And by that time, it's too late.
And this doesn't violate any HIPAA rules or anything?
No,
like
HIPAA, it's all within HIPAA regulations.
Okay. Any other questions? I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
4.3, consider and take all appropriate action on task order 2025-01, amendment number 1 to task order 2021-02 with Ardura LLC for professional services agreement for sewer system portable EOC and fire station generator hazard mitigation grant management services for additional services in the amount not to exceed $23,319 and authorize the city manager to execute all associated documents.
Mayor and council, this is brought before you. It's an amendment to a task order that was previously approved by council. This is our HMGP, or Hazard Mitigation Grant Consultant and Grant Writer. And the projects listed on here are for the sewer system portable generators, the EOC generator, and the fire station generator. As you can tell, this is amending Work Authorization 2021-02, and it's a good reminder of how long we've been working with the grant writer to get the generators. The process has taken very, very long time, and they produced a number of requests for information, or RFIs, and that was not estimated with the grant writer. The grant writers approached the city, given the length and the years spent on this, to try to recoup additional hours, and this is reimbursable through the 5% that FEMA does have, or through the HMGP, so it would be able to be captured within the grant proceeds. So this is an ask for council to consider to amend and extend those services with that consultant.
Move to approve 4.3.
And these are generators that we still don't have grants for?
So we've been awarded the sewer system portables and the fire station generator and the EOC, which is, right now the EOC is here in the City Hall Public Safety Building. So these all do have award letters. It's just the time that it took to get to this part, it was well extended.
I understand. And the fire station generator went out over the freeze over the winter?
We did. I think we spoke a little too soon on that one. And so we do have to have some maintenance done on the fire station. It did go down. I think there was a blip in the middle of that first night, and fire station was in it, and it didn't kick on.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. 4.4, consider and take all appropriate action determining whether the Pelican Bay Pool reconstruction project will be included in the election proposition. Give direction on the preferred design concept and establish the specific cost level to be included in the proposed ordinance before City Council on February 4th, 2025, ordering a bond.
Mayor and Council, your next two items, as we talked about in the town hall meeting, we've got February 4th will be the actual deadline to call a bond election. The two projects that have been under consideration, there's a lot of decisions yet to be made. So these items are giving you the ability to talk post town hall, and the comments printed out. We got 6 comments that were filled out in the electronic form. So giving you an option to give direction, because when the ordinance comes on your February 4th agenda, we will need to put a number on there. And if you have an idea of which proposition or which level for the pool and the police station, this is what these items were given tonight, just to give you an opportunity to debate before you get to ordinance on February 4th.
So we are not making a decision tonight?
You are not making a decision. You are just giving general direction to staff of what you would like to see on the draft order to call the election on February 4th. And you would have, this does not lock you in any form or fashion, whatever decisions made tonight. You will still have the next meeting to determine what is on that ballot, if anything, on that ordinance.
Okay, so one of the things that I was thinking about was, one, I still never understood why the concept for the pool took so long. Originally, it was going to be in the late summer of last year, but we didn't get it till just, recently, last month, or, earlier this month. And I understand it was said, well, they threw in the aesthetics of the 2 buildings out front, but that had nothing to do with the pool. So, but then we only get why the only one company? So that's the first question. Why the only one company to do it instead of 2 or 3 bids? The length of time is the second one. And then, no, I think the people are saying right now, I don't think there's enough time to get this all set up for the February 4th one. So obviously, I'm not going to hear an answer, I don't think, tonight, be able to change my mind for the February to get this on, for the May election bond. But anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
Regarding the pool, I don't think whether or not we build a pool there is a decision that council should make. I truly believe that that should go to vote. The only way for that decision to go to vote is through the bond. So I absolutely support it going forward in a bond. That does not mean it gets approved, but it means our citizens make the decision. We don't make the decision here.
I agree. The citizens should have the opportunity to vote. That'll let us know what they feel.
Agree.
So-
And as long as there's no more cost on top of what we've already spent, that's,
Right, but we're looking on the pool, we're looking at 3 options.
Right, but we don't make that decision until February the 4th.
Okay.
Okay?
Right, so we're going to bring you an ordinance that'll be attached to this. If you have general consensus of which option you want to see, 3 million, 4 million, or 5 million on that draft ordinance, again, it can be changed. This is just meant to kind of get general direction of the amount, the style that you're looking for at this point that you want to see on that first draft ordinance.
So we do need to come up with an option, one of the 3 options to put on the bond.
You're going to have to ask the voters what they want to bond, 3 million, 4 million, or 5 million, which is attached to a design. No, you're going to write a proposition. So you have to make a decision on what level you want to give the voters.
February 4th, we need to have which one we want. But I think most of the consensus was for B. I've talked to a lot of people, and I think B was, everybody at the town halls were kind of in favor of the B design, which was the middle design.
I agree, or privatizing it, or looking into that, or if how you even go about that, but I thought that was a great idea, so take off.
The only problem with privatizing is that they're going to charge a fee to our citizens. They're in it to make money. So when you go to privatization of a pool, they're going to have an entry fee all the time. And I think that that's an issue.
Well, either raise their taxes to fix it, or pay an entry fee. I don't know, which one's more? So do you need any additional information from us right now?
Seems like if there's no other comments, that you'd like to see at least the first round of ordinance with $4 million? Okay.
Is that what we decided?
yeah, I agree.
Somebody make a motion?
Take a vote for that?
Yeah.
Okay, I move to put the Pelican Bay Pool on the February 4th, ordering a bond election, option B.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
No.
Okay. 4.5, consider and take all appropriate action determining whether the Seabrook Police Department facility will be included in election proposition, give direction on the site, and establish the specific cost level to be included in the proposed ordinance before City Council on February 4th, 2025, ordering a bond election.
I move to approve the Seabrook Police Department for the February 4th bond for the location at 146 and Meyer.
Discussion.
I will say that if we put it out to the public this year, we already have an election going on. There is a benefit to pushing it to the voters instead of like waiting next year and having to call a special election just for that and cost for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh, wait, we have an
think we
election
just,
next year too.
Let the citizens decide.
Yes.
We chose a location that seemed people were for, and so let's let the voters decide it.
I agree.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Hey, I want to change my vote on the pool, if that's how we're going to word it, that we're having just letting it's going to go to a vote anyway, one way or another. If we're letting the citizens vote and it's just going to be the bond they're voting on, then I'll change my vote on the swimming pool to an aye.
David?
It's fine. The vote already passed, so we'll let the minutes reflect that the council member has
Correct.
changed his vote.
Thanks.
Okay, 5.0, discussion 5.1. Discussion regarding. Yeah. We did.
He's a nay.
Oh, you're a nay. Did you, okay. Make
I think
that-
just let the record reflect that so that verbally we can do the minutes later when this.
Okay. 5.1, discussion regarding the automatic resignation of position 1, Jackie Rasco, due to her public announcement of candidacy for the mayor position as outlined under the city charter and applicable state law and associated implications. David?
And just to be brief, we thought, Gail and I thought this would be a good idea just to have a real quick public discussion about what has happened recently with one council member running for mayor and what the implications were for her seat as well as the position upcoming. And I think it's pretty clear that y'all understand that we're going to have to call a special election. Texas Constitution, basically, it's resigned to run if you have more than a year left on your term, which she does, and announces for candidacy formally, which she has, then she automatically resigns her position. So there will be a special election in this May, and as part of our regular ballot, but it'll say special election. Y'all probably seen that before with that position up to fill the rest of her unexpired term. The next question would be, then what happens to her seat right now? Well, just because she resigns, there's also another provision in the Texas Constitution called the holdover, which allows her to continue to sit in that seat until somebody else is sworn in for that position. So as a practical matter, nothing is going to change up here. I just wanted you and the public to be aware of what has happened and the legal implications for that action. That's all I have, Mayor.
Great, thanks. Any discussion? 5.2, discussion regarding a sound barrier along State Highway 146 for the Lake Cove subdivision.
Okay, so a bunch of Lake Cove people had talked to me, but the study was done, I was told it was a recent study, and it was in April of 2013. So that was obviously way before when 146 was a 4-lane road with a turning lane, and then it was only 35 miles an hour, and there was no overpasses. So now there's overpasses, and the speed limit's around 60, 65. So from Red Bluff all the way till past NASA Road 1, it's really loud. A lot of people have talked about it. My new home, I can clearly hear it. So, especially when the trucks rev up to go up the overpasses. So, I'd like to see what could be done to get a sound barrier wall on the west side. And this has been done all around Houston. I've seen many of them. I think it's feasible. I've been told no, but I just still think it's feasible. But there's not been a recent study, and the road is still going. The road just got finished. So that's my take. And I said, like, a lot of the Lake Cove people definitely want it.
Well, I agree, Joe, too, but you would have to start at Red Oaks and go all the way through Lake Cove. You'd have to benefit everybody else in that area.
Correct.
Yeah, so I agree.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay.
Have we had, what's the most recent sound study? I thought we'd had one subsequent to that.
So the city has not had any sound study. When TxDOT builds a road, they have an environmental assessment. I believe Joe was forwarded and maybe referencing the TxDOT environmental assessment or Highway 146, in which they take into account the current conditions and then the projected conditions after build. So they have not, TxDOT has not done anything since that study.
Are we expecting them to do anything?
No, I think we went through something similar with Red Bluff. So after Red Bluff was constructed, we asked TxDOT if they would do a sound study. They did oblige us to do the sound study, and it did come back with negative results for no sound wall on Red Bluff. So it would be trying to negotiate with TxDOT to see if they would fund doing their own sound study for their state highway.
Okay, with my limited knowledge of sound walls, I would think it'd be that the first step would be to have some professionals come out and do an assessment and then give us some sort of guidance as to what kind of sound wall would be effective. And then the second part of that question is, when you look at the land going from the feeder road over under the high tension wires or high transmission lines, where could we put it? I mean, is there, a place to put it? And again, I don't know, and what requirements or hoops would have to jump through to do it? And who would pay for it?
Well, TxDOT pays for it with state tax money. It's the reason that you need them is because they built a freeway through our city. So they're all along Beltway 8. They're all along the freeways, and it's because the noise is that much. It reduces sound 13 to 18% decibels. And I was in a backyard of someone who had lived along Beltway 8, and when I came to their neighborhood, I didn't realize their house butted up to the actual wall. And so the wall was really right in their backyard, but when you were in their backyard, it actually knocked the sound down pretty well. So I know they work. I know it could be done, but I guess TxDOT needs to do a study, and TxDOT pays for that. It's their deal. So I think that's the least we could do for the people that live all the way along 146, all the way from Red Bluff, like Red Oak Acres, all the way down to Nassau Road 1 of Lake Cove.
Okay, can we request TxDOT to do the study?
I can reach out to TxDOT and see if they will.
Okay, let's do that and find out what they say before we go forward. I agree.
Let me ask the question on Shore Acres, when that wall went up after TxDOT, did that work over there? TxDOT didn't pay for that, did they?
From my understanding, it was a partnership between the city and TxDOT. They did a sound study. The sound study, I don't believe, warranted the wall. However, with partnering on that project, they wanted the wall, so they partnered, funding both sides.
Okay. All right, so you're going to get a hold of TxDOT? Thank you. Discussion regarding requirements for new residents to obtain garbage bins.
Okay, so obviously Brenda and I just moved into a house, and I needed garbage cans, so I called up, and the city of Seabrook, it prompted me to Waste Management. Waste Management, after about 40 minutes, answered the phone physically and said, hey, you contacted the right people, but you need to talk to Seabrook. And they forwarded me. I get forwarded to Seabrook, and it put me on prompted, no one to talk to, just prompted me to get it, this is what you need to do, or talk to someone. So I leave a message, but in trying to leave a message, it hangs you up. So very frustrating. Then I found out you had to physically go in to the city to get it. It wants your, they gave me a form, and then it wants your social security number and a copy of your mortgage, the documents you signed for your mortgage. Of course, we didn't give our social security. I physically showed the document that I got, that I had our mortgage, but I'm not going to give a copy to anybody. That's got too much information on it. So one, these are garbage cans. Then it's $100 fee. And then I was told that it was for my protection. Well, you don't need to protect me from 2 garbage cans. But the point is, the form that you fill out doesn't give you enough space to fill out half your information anyway, like your email and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of crazy. But one, you don't need to make me jump through that many hoops to get 2 garbage cans. I think that's ridiculous. So I'd like to get this revamped. We can talk about it. I don't think you need all that form of identification. I need less than that to go vote. And if I have to have a house to get garbage cans, which you do, all you can do is prove it with other things. But I can guarantee it, there's no homeless people coming into Seabrook with fake documents and then getting garbage cans and then taking them out into the woods. So I don't understand all the paperwork. Basically, it's just a big bureaucracy to get 2 garbage cans. And we need to trim that down to barely anything. Again, it's 2 garbage cans. Is one's a garbage can and one's a recycle bin. They looked exactly the same. One's got a yellow lid, the other got the green. So anyway, let's get that fixed, because that doesn't, that doesn't make any sense. And by the way, how do you get your $100 back? Because people don't call the city and go, by the way, I'm leaving. I need my $100 back. So I'd like to find out what happens to everybody's $100, and how long has this been the actual system? Because I owned a home before and I didn't have to do all this. So just curious.
Mike?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So take them in kind of reverse order. It's been the procedure to put your deposit down when you become a resident to get your utility services since, I think, 1961, when the city was first established. That fee has gone up. I think council finally approved increasing the deposit for the utility account. It's not actually for the trash cans. You have to have a utility account, i.e. water service, in order to get trash cans. So the documentation, closing documents, the forms that the ladies have you fill out when you get water service turned on. We do ask for those documents. If you own the home, you pay a $100 deposit. If you're a renter, it's $200. Both of those are extremely low. We bill in arrears. Typically, when people move out, there's 2 to 3 months of water bills that the city ends up eating due to the loss, because the $100, it really only covers a small percentage of that. We do actually, when you move out of the city, normally people call and they disconnect their water and they say, I'm moving. We inform them, hey, you've got a deposit. Where would you like us to forward your deposit to? Often they want to apply the deposit to their last bill, and then their forwarding address gets the remaining balance that is owed to the city. That's it in a nutshell. I'll answer any questions specific that.
Why do they need their social security number? That seems a little personal. I mean, they have the mortgage statement, though.
Yeah, that
I'm sure the
it
logic
doesn't
for
make sense to me.
just like, showing them your mortgage is proof of ownership of the home, because that influences the amount you pay. An electric bill doesn't say if you're a renter or an owner, but it's a different deposit rate if you rent or own. So I can understand the mortgage to make that distinction. The social, I'm with Joe on that. I wouldn't show you my social for a deposit. But that's a minor thing to correct, I'm sure, if we want
Right.
to look at doing that. But
Right. And like I said, it's a minor thing. This is not the most pressing issue in Seabrook. It was just something that came up. Brenda wanted me to bring it up, so I'm doing it. But the other thing too, Rob, I hear what you're saying about showing the mortgage. Let me show you. You don't need a copy of it. Once I show you that that's my mortgage, that's all you should need. I don't think the city needs to keep it as a copy, because if something ever happened to it, all that information is then out there. So all I'm saying is, maybe show something, but I don't have to give you a copy of it. And of course, I think a lot of people I'm already hearing agree with the Social Security number. It's just something that I'm sure someone thought about that, but didn't really think it through. You don't need my Social Security for a water bill or all that. That's me. It's who it is. You don't need their social. You don't need certain thing, you know, I'm not going to give you my bank account number. So anyway, the whole point is, I think we could just, you know, remove some of the bureaucracy out of it. It's a minor thing. It's tweak the form a little bit where if they ask you for an email address, it's a little longer, or your phone number, it's a little bigger, because I can write in any small box. I got great eyes, but most people can't. And so if you want to actually read it, it's going to have to be written at a size that someone can actually read if you actually need it. But I can write super small and you'd never be able to read it. You need a magnifying glass to see it. But anyhow, those are small little tweaks. Let's get it fixed and move on.
Okay. Moving on. Discussion regarding the funding provided by the city for the Christmas boat parade.
Okay, so Brenda asked me about going to the Christmas boat parade. We've been judges before, and she had seen an advertisement from Clear Lake Chamber of Commerce and said, hey, have you gotten the tickets? So I called up the city, and Rachel said, hey, I think, you know, the mayor and someone else got some or whatever. Then I talked to Sherry Freeney, and she said, yeah, the mayor and someone else got you guys, you know, donated $2,000 so you get 4 tickets. But I went back and I was going, wait a minute, I don't remember us doing it. So all this is I just don't remember us approving any money for it, because remember, we changed a lot of things this past year. And one of them I thought was the boat parade. So I went back and looked at the hot tax thing, and the boat parade doesn't appear on that. Like it, just like we didn't give it money. So I was just curious of how we did it. Now, let me clarify something. I like the boat parade, and I have no problem donating $2,000 out of hot tax for it. So I want to make that crystal clear. I just wanted to know how that mechanics worked, because I didn't see us approve it. So I wondered how that happened. That's all.
Okay, Joe, for many years, I paid for the boat parade out of pocket. The last 2 years, the city took it over and said that they would now fund the boat parade, the $2,000 extra to the chamber. I never used any wristbands. The mayors always ride on the boat. The mayors lead the boat parade, the area mayors. This year, they decided not to. So there was 4 wristbands that have been available every year for the last 10 years. They were sitting there. You got yours. I didn't use any. There was 2 wristbands still left over, as far as I know. I didn't contact them, but you know, I'm not the one handing out wristbands. Council should know that for the last 10 years, the contract for the boat parade is $2,000, and we get 4 wristbands. That's it. And the mayor never uses them.
And we voted on that separate. I mean, we'd vote A for our annual membership, Chamber of Commerce, and then there was a separate vote for sponsoring the boat parade. It was 10-2.
And that's how it went. So
Okay.
I don't know if we want to change that. I mean, the city doesn't have to fund it anymore. I mean, like I said, the mayor, I funded it for years.
Okay, that's what I was saying. When I didn't see it on I was wondering how that happened. Sherry said something about you had funded. I was like, wow, I didn't see.
For years,
that's where I'm.
For years, I did. The last 2 years, the city decided that they were going to fund the boat parade, the extra $2,000.
Okay.
Up until then, I did it.
Well, I think, and thank you. That's a cool thing. I like that you did that. All I'm saying is, again, that's very inexpensive. It's a cool thing, and people do actually come to see the Christmas boat parade. That's been a huge tradition in this area for over 58 years, I think. So it's a neat deal. Let's keep it up. I don't have a problem with $2,000 at all.
Well, before I was mayor, the city didn't fund the boat parade. The previous mayor had a problem. Anyway, so when I became mayor, I said that the city should engage in the boat parade. Council didn't want to pay the extra money, so I did.
I guess his question is, why wasn't this discussed during hot funds? when we were divvying out hot funds.
It's always been, the chamber events have always been an EDC issue. They fund the they fund the chamber. So it was always EDC.
So it's really go
not
through.
council issue.
Oh, so would this been an EDC should have done the thought about?
EDC didn't fund the boat parade, the city funded the boat parade.
Right, and
Okay.
Because I was funding it.
also the boat parade was at one time funded by hot funds. Council had a lengthy discussion one year when they were determining hot sponsorships and decided that that was not heads and beds. So they made a decision to take it out of hot.
Hot said that they weren't funding the boat parade because it didn't meet the requirements.
Wow, and I actually think it's one of those things that does. I think people actually do come. I've actually talked to people who said they stayed at a hotel in Seabrook because they were there to watch the boat parade. And a lot of times the weather has been sometimes wet, not terrible rains, but some rain or really cold, and they just didn't feel like driving home. So they stayed in Seabrook. But anyhow, okay, like I said, this was just a discussion. It was curious. By the way, thank you for supporting that, Tom. And you deserve an attaboy for that, because if you've been keeping that going for that long, that's a good deal, because it's a neat thing because it goes by Seabrook shores. Let's put it that way. I mean, the thing's out in the water, but it physically goes by Seabrook. So anyhow, good job.
It didn't go by it didn't go by Nassau Bay this year. They had an accident with the fireworks. Actually, a guy got hurt real bad. One of the
That's not good.
one of the detonators. Anyway, let's move on. 5.5, discussion regarding section R4001-3 of the International Energy Efficiency Codes, required permanent HVAC and R-factor certificates within an electrical panel.
Okay, so here's another thing. So we moved into our house on, I think, the 18th of December. Should have been the 16th. That was a Monday. Well, we failed our final inspection. We failed our final inspection, and this is, Brightland Homes was telling me, I'm not there. I physically don't go in the house. It's just the Brightland people and a city inspector from the city of Seabrook. Well, we failed. We were told, hey, you failed. Your closings all moved now. So it moves all your closing stuff. It moved delivery from furniture, refrigerator. It moved a lot of things. So I'm like, okay, well, why did it fail? Well, they said first was a smoke detector that was in the wrong location. Well, they had the two guys that are the builders for Brightland, and they had their bigwig boss there. So the bigwig boss asked, where does the smoke detector need to be? Because it says it needs to be like, I'm giving a rough example, like 1, 3, or 5 feet from the entryway or whatever. And it's clearly there, but he said, if you're saying that this is not in the correct location, where does it need to be? The inspector did not speak. They asked again. They said, excuse me, sir, where does this smoke detector need to be? And again, it was a shrug of the shoulder, no answer. I've always been told that the inspector is the person who protects the homeowner, the future homeowner, which would be me and Brenda, and it teaches builders what to do. Well, how are you teaching if you're not going to answer a question? But here comes the better one. So you have to have an HVAC R-factor certificate in your electrical box. That's per code. I've read it. I understand it. It's an obscure rule, and I'll explain that. It's an obscure thing that I think people are reaching for, because the builder has a copy, the city of Seabrook has a copy, the person who did the inspection has a copy, and the homeowner will get a copy when they close. So there's all these copies out there. Well, mine failed and I'll tell you exactly why it failed. There was one in there. I don't have the picture. I can show this later, but I'm on this conference call. If I would have been there at the meeting on Tuesday night, if we would have had it, I would have had the photographs. But there's a copy. It has the certificate. It's signed. It has all the information that's there now that passed, but mine was too small. That was the quote from a city inspector that said, my house failed because this R factor HVAC certificate was too small. You got to be kidding me. That bothers me a lot because there's other cities in this area that don't even require that. That's one. But your certificate's too small. By the way, there's almost nearly the exact same taped on with that blue painter's tape. And now it's clear tape inside the.
It's good.
So it makes no sense, but my house failed because a sticker was too small. We got to change that. That's another.
Joe,
yes.
Joe, it sounds like you have an issue with your builder because
Nope.
you're
Nope,
wait.
Not at all, Rob.
This
Rob,
is not.
It's not the builder.
Joe.
It's not the builder. It's when you tell me a sticker's too small and your house fails. That's not the builder. Period.
Was your house the first one to close in that neighborhood?
Nope.
So there's been
Not at all.
So there's been other homes that had everything correct in past inspection. And your builder built other homes in the same neighborhood and did it right, and you're complaining because he messed it up on your house. Why is this even on the agenda?
Rob, you obviously don't even understand what the heck you just said. Other homes passed. Mine was exactly the same way. Brightland didn't build my home different than any other home there. The smoke detectors were in the exact same location. Those other ones passed. A sticker too small? That's a joke, and everyone knows it. A sticker too small. That there's 5 copies out there. And I can't believe you just brought that up.
Okay.
I'd like to hear from the city.
Mayor, council. As we pointed out, the section of the energy code that we're calling out here in this particular case relates to verifying all of the information that the third-party energy code consultant has done during their inspection process. And the point of the plaque or sticker being located in the electrical panel is to provide the homeowner and any contractors that come to do work on the house, the information and information about the installation and the equipment that was installed at the time of construction. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question real fast while you're looking it up. Other cities may not have adopted IECC 21 yet, which the requirements of IECC 21 are a little different than 18. And this was a update to the 18 code. We adopted this. We adopted 21.
So
when did we adopt 21?
This particular section's been in the code since 2000 in some form or fashion. The 2015 also had this requirement. At the time of permitting, we informed the builder in writing in either their inspection or their plan review notes and their final approval letter that this is a requirement to be in place to issue a final. So the builder has been informed prior to release of the permit of this requirement.
But the size of it, is there a size restriction?
No, there's not a size restriction. It just needs to be legible. I can't.
Okay.
I can't speak directly. I'm sorry, Councilman. I was just going to say, you and I actually spoke on that Friday. But that was not my recollection of our conversation in your particular case. There were some other issues, and in this particular neighborhood, there were some changes during construction. This particular builder is using energy unusual section of the Energy Code for their certification, which requires additional calculations. They're actually using a performance-based method that gives them something that's completely different than what we see in most of the rest of our community. So this has been an issue that kind of changed or shifted because of changes that were not indicated in the original plan. So in this particular case with Councilman McCall's house and several others, there were a number of issues with these houses. This was simply one that changed. It had to do with changes in the insulation and then problems with properly venting of some of the non-insulated attic areas.
So essentially, this just, was it a problem with the way the form was done, or was actually a building code for the envelope requirement?
No, in any of these cases, in this particular case, my recollection of this particular case, the notes were that it was not in place. Maybe it fell out of the panel, I don't know. But I did actually make contact, in this particular case, I made contact with the builder to discuss it because of some of the questions with the smoke detector. I mean, specifically to the certificate, since, for the past 10 years, this has been a requirement during permitting, and it's been conveyed to the builders at the beginning and throughout construction.
Okay, real quick to explain. I'm going by Nick. I did not bring up the size on purpose. The certificate in the electric box was there on the day of inspection. Your inspector, I don't know who it is, told and all three people from Brightland Homes said, your house failed for 2 reasons. They did mention something about some venting, but they said the main reasons it failed was, 1, the smoke detector in the wrong place. And we actually talked about this. And by the way, let me jump real fast. Nick actually helped out. When Nick went and talked to him, he squared it away with Brightland. They got it under control and everything was good like the next day or 2 days later. So that's a good thing. And I appreciate what you did, Nick. But my point was, the other thing was the HVAC R factor certificate from the city inspector to the Brightland Home representatives was said on my house, 2410 Parker, was said that it was too small. It was physically there, but it was too small. But it's the exact same size as what was there before. Maybe they changed some stuff on it, but what was told to them is mine was too small. So anything else, I don't really care about. I was just told my certificate was too small. That upset me. I disagreed with that. That's when I called Nick and said, let's get this fixed. And guess what? It got fixed. But we gotta do something about certificates being too small.
Yeah, I think we ought to make them bigger. Okay, moving on. 5.6, discussion regarding the Economic Development Corporation's Economic Alliance advocacy trip to Washington, D.C. with the Economic Alliance Port Houston.
Okay, so before, we used to do this all the time, and then it was told that we weren't going to do it anymore. And Mayor, you told me that we should not send a councilman because it eats up too much of your, our stipend to, get shirts or different things. And so, anyhow, they said that, that you just didn't need to go on this trip. And they've asked me to go on this trip many times. I know all those guys that go. I've had a good time doing it. Then all of a sudden, it came to this time, and EDC approved someone to go. A couple people couldn't go, and they said they asked you, so you're going. But you have said before that this doesn't really promote the city. So I was trying to figure out what the heck's going on. So on the agenda.
I don't recall it being to the Alliance trip, Joe. I think we were discussing the Citizens for Space trip to Washington that I said, I don't think we should fund it anymore because it doesn't do anything for the city of Seabrook, and no council members in a long time or mayors have gone on that trip. That was for Citizens for Space, not the Alliance. I mean, we don't have to send somebody. I mean, if we're saying, and I don't have a problem with it, if we're saying
No.
that we shouldn't attend this trip,
I'm saying we should. I think we should do both. I think they both promote the city. I've been on the space one, when you go for talking about space, and because we have a lot of citizens in Seabrook that work at NASA. So I think and obviously I think it's the economic overflow that helps our city. If NASA were to go, and we wouldn't have NASA, that would kill Seabrook. And because it would kill this whole area. But of course, you're promoting basically three things on both trips, in my opinion. You always promote NASA, you always promote the port, and you always promote all the like Ellington and all that. And then our we're the petrochemical capital of the world. So that's really what you're promoting, those three type of things on both trips. So
Well,
I think we have someone on both trips. That's my opinion. That's where I'm going.
the only reason they chose me to go is because I'm the liaison for the Economic Alliance. Council wanted me to be there. I attend all the meetings. I have yet to see one other city councilman ever attend an Economic Alliance meeting. Anyway, and I go to all the white papers when we decide to go to Washington, what the agenda is going to be. And that's the only reason. Now, we do not have to attend this year. If we want to leave it up to the next council to make that decision, I have no problem with that.
Well, if I may, EDC made the decision and made the appointment for Tom to attend. And again, and like Tom said, if future councils want to change that, that's fine, because otherwise we're going to have to go back to EDC and, if we don't want to send it, but they're paying for this and they see the value in it. So let's just kind of kick the can down the road and let the next council decide, who attends and when.
I think it might have been worded wrong. I'm for this. I want Tom to go. I actually think we ought to send even like maybe one more person. I also think we should do it when we do both of them, the space and this economic alliance. So I think you're missing the point. I like this. I think we should go. It's that big of a deal. Yes, we should be going.
Okay, I think we should put Citizens for Space back on an agenda in the future then.
Correct.
But again, when we're talking Citizens for Space, and this isn't on the agenda, but we're talking about the Washington DC trips, it's getting in a little bit to, I guess, lobbying. And the city has a problem of sending a lobbyist to Washington and that's not such in the Alliance. The Alliance is a totally different purpose. And I think the Citizens for Space trip has turned into more of a business, local businesses and local citizens, like you say, to go on that trip, to say, I work for them and, I want it funded. And the problem with NASA is that, they are funded. When NASA got funded, it kind of defeated the purpose of going to Washington to ask for funds. So in the past couple of years, with NASA being funded, I didn't see a big purpose to go on that trip. So, if future councils want to change their mind and go on that, I would tread lightly though on the lobbying issue. And,
right.
But I think that's what it's turned into. And so that's up to a future council to decide. Okay, moving on. 5.7, discussion regarding the arrangement of locations for future town hall meetings.
Okay, we had that town hall, we had that first one, and when I walked in, I was, okay, like you can see the setup right now. You have 24, 25 chairs on one side, 24, 25 chairs on the other side. We came in for that first town hall, there was only like 24 seats, and it was in the middle. And I understand you put some stuff to each side, but I was like, and we had a whole bunch of people standing up. So I didn't understand why you couldn't have made that aisle in the middle a little narrower, kept the 50 chairs in there, and still had the stuff on the side. I just didn't understand. And this is not that big of a deal, but it gave the perception, because people said this, oh, were they expecting a lot less, or did they not want a lot of people? That's how it came across. So
Joe,
I was just wondering.
I think it was the fact that it was a town hall meeting. It wasn't meant to be a conference. We wanted people to look at the tables and walk around more than they wanted to sit down and listen to us. We only talked for 15 minutes.
Right.
And so I didn't see why we needed any chairs, to tell you the truth. And just let the people walk around and look at the displays and look at what we had out there. We could have talked without people sitting down. Anyway.
Right.
You know, so, but we changed it for the second meeting because of you. So was the second one okay?
Yeah, and
Okay,
here's the
great.
thing, real fast, the people actually liked that town hall thing where, yeah, you gave the presentation, but then they actually have said, that's the first time well, that's what they told me, the first time they were able to ask a question and hear something back. Because, you know, like at this thing, all the people in the audience can't go back and forth with us. But at a town hall, they can. They absolutely love that, because they said, we got heard, and at least they got to hear us. So that was and I actually think we need more of those. And I'm probably going to propose coming up at least 4 times a year, minimum 3, where the citizens can tell us what they think in a town hall setting, because they seem to really like that. So that's what I'm hearing.
Okay, good. 5.8, discussion regarding a town hall meeting for Bayside Park construction located on Main Street.
Yeah, I definitely want to have that. A bunch of people have been talking about that because they want to have their input. So I just don't think that's that big of a deal. I think a lot of people would definitely come to that and want to be a part of it. So I want to have that sooner than later so we can get their input. So if we have to do any type of, I'm not saying a study, but any type of thought process into, we'll at least know what the people want or are thinking about to at that park. So that's all I got to say on that.
Okay.
Aren't you interviewing them, or
Yes.
has that started?
I'll be interviewing them next week.
Okay. I do like the town hall. I think it was a success, and it was good feedback from everybody. I think we should do them more often, in my opinion.
5.8, I'm sorry, 5.9, discussion regarding the location of the Carruthers fence line.
Okay, so I brought this up many times, and it's been over I think a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years now. The fence is in the wrong location. I've made that crystal clear. One of the reasons it was in the wrong location is 10 feet off that wall, there was a big tree. And I get it. I've been out there and I've seen that tree. That tree now has been like 3/4 of the way cut down. So it's a big stump and some, branches sticking out. The tree's dead, but that's where the first 10-foot pole would have been. And it just needs to continue that way. One, to get electrical, because the electrical right-of-way is right along that ditch and those telephone poles, but that's right where the fence needs to go. So I would like to see that get done. And the fence was put in the wrong place, and it needs to get put in the correct place, because I think I've come up with 18,000 square feet of land lost because of it's not in the right location. So,
Okay, I reached out to a member of the Open Spaces and Trails Commission, and they have not taken a formal position on this. And I would suggest that we refer this back to the commission and have them make a formal resolution as to what they want to do with the fence and where they want it located, because, as you pointed out, when we move the fence, we're going to have to get a surveyor to tell us where the property line is. But if we move it, it could affect the existing vegetation. And I remember when the first discussions were brought up about the fence, there was a great deal of comments made about saving vegetation. They didn't want it destroyed. So I really think, let's get it back to open spaces and trails. Let's get a formal agenda item, ask them to make a formal agenda item, and then have a formal resolution come to council as to what they want to do that they have all voted on.
Yep. Sounds good, buddy. I mean, you know, I know they want it moved. I understand you're saying it's not formal, but I've talked to a few of them that I know they want it moved. But anyway, yeah, that's fine, because then, like you say, then we have documentation. That's where they'd like it. We'll, you know, the survey, we can look at that, make sure it's done, because then this will be the last time we ever have to move the fence or do anything with that fence. So that'll be good.
5.10, discussion on the city's Seabrook current communication tools and strategies and opportunities to engage and inform the public. Jackie?
Okay, I put this on the agenda because every time I look for information from the city, from our public affairs, I'm like, surely she's put some information out or posted something, and there's nothing. Okay, so I look at the Department of Public Affairs serves as the primary marketing resource for the city of Seabrook, including tourism and economic development initiatives. And they oversee a wide range of communication. I mean, if this is what they do every single day, they should be posting information every single day. Not about the weather. There was nothing about the town hall meetings until the day of. There was nothing about the Taco Bell ribbon cutting. There's nothing about the new pickleball court at Brummerhop. Nothing about the lights at Meadow Park. That's just to name a few recent that I haven't. So I'm posting, and I'm like, this is not my job, but I'm trying to get the information out to people, and it really needs some improvement. You know, why aren't we having like highlighting events or grand openings for the pickleball court or the new lights at Meadow Park? We haven't done anything like that. She even has on the, I'm not sure if it's still there, it's been a couple weeks, but on the Seabrook website under public affairs, it's got, says, what survey or what preferred social media channel do you use? Okay, there was nobody had taken the survey. I took the survey for the first person to take it, and I shared it with some of my friends, so they probably did it. But, I mean, do they even need a survey? I mean, Facebook, it tells you how many followers, 20,000 followers. Nextdoor, 12,000. Instagram, 2,000. 4,000 on X. I mean, 6. I mean, it doesn't take, you know, you need to be posting on your high volume followers, which would be Facebook and Nextdoor, and then all these others. But, I mean, Facebook and Nextdoor, there's not anything posted. I just don't understand why. And also, you know, several things looking, and I'm on the website every single day, and there's a lot of, every department really should go through their section of the website and go through and clean it up. Their park amenities are not updated. The incentives under EDC, some things are off or contradicting. There's vague information on all the available properties, which, you know, we're relying on the internet and word of mouth for EDC development. We can't even, I mean, if they go onto the internet, they can't see, what can I use this property for? Exactly. What are the uses? What are they zoned for? What, you know, what can be here? It's not on there. We just need to do better. And I think that if you paid attention to Facebook, that there's a lot of citizens that would agree that our communication is not great. Any discussion?
You know, I can agree with you. We went through a very austere period with 146 COVID, 2 tropical storms and Beryl. And during the construction of 146, we took a very conservative approach to everything. But if we're going to have a real effort and address all the issues you want, I think we really need to look at our current staff. Do we have adequate staff? And in terms of our own website, as far as posting on Facebook and things, I would be very cautious unless I owned the Facebook page, because people can go in and edit your postings, and you have to be very careful to make sure that the information going out is correct.
I'm talking about the city website. I mean, the city Facebook page, the city, but it's not even, I mean, look at go tonight and look and see what's been posted the last 2 weeks. Mostly weather, nothing about the community or events. Barely, no, I won't say nothing, but very little. And we have more than what's being posted on there. And why is that information not being published by our public affairs department? That's their job.
As I said, I'm not arguing with you. Again, do we have adequate staff?
Well, I was going to say, so we do have one person that's responsible for the posting. We do have a video production person that's in the box right now, and then we have a person that we've hired for tourism. So we do have one person. The one person is responsible for servicing EDC as well as 12-plus departments throughout the day. So it's not just sitting doing social media posts. So we do have a little bit of a bandwidth as far as projects like the pickleball court, those were ARPA. So we do have the ARPA, as you know, the other ARPA projects that are coming through, which is the shade structure. We had the basketball court. So we were planning to do a council event unveiling all the ARPA finishes when the weather got a little bit better. So there was some internal planning on that going on. To do numerous posts today, I mean, I need to pull her back to just sit there and do social media stuff all day long.
It doesn't take that long. It takes a couple minutes to do a quick post, a few minutes, a few times a day, and it says that I guess we do need to look at things, because our public affairs should be public affairs, and what 12 departments would she be over?
Anything that has to do with any of the posts for departments. So you have emergency management that's done post, you have parks that have done post, you have police department, HR, when they're doing recruiting, you have just day-to-day activities that are going on. That department's also responsible for doing the preparation for the festival. So there's other things than just social media that the department's responsible for.
Right. But they should, okay. All right, I'll just be taking note.
One quick thing. I don't think people are no one's cutting down anybody on the city. I know no one said that, but we're not, things could improve. And just and maybe maybe as council, we've given or not giving like a specific direction of things we need. Yeah, weather needs to be one of them. Hey, there's a warning, be ready for this thing, cover your pipes, do that thing, try to help us out. We have busted pipes all over the city, but also events like Coffee with a Cop or all these other things like, hey, town hall meeting in 2 weeks, not the day of or whatever. So again, we're not bashing anybody that works for the city. Sometimes they're only given like, hey, please do this. Well, they did it, but now we're saying, hey, we'd like a little bit more or whatever. So they do that to me all the time in football or baseball. Like, hey, you're doing a good job, but you could do better. Do this, this, and this also. Okay, fine. But again, it's not saying that we're bad or anybody's doing anything wrong or they need to be reprimanded. It's just, let's get a little bit more done of this type of event. And that way, I think it will help, because we've had citizens, Jackie's had them, I've had them, that tell us, hey, we'd like a little bit more information on this possible town hall, or what's going on with the pier, or what's going on with the boat ramp or whatever. And that's all we're trying to say. So I think it's an easy fix. It can be a directive given. Council can't do it to the individual employee. It has to come from you. But at the same time, hey, you've heard from council, they'd like a little bit more information. I think we can get that solved. I think it's an easy or a quick fix. That's my opinion.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay. 6.0 routine business. 6.1, monthly financial report for December 2024.
Can I plug this in, or do you need to do that? Hello again. Would like to add one thing that came to me. I actually phoned a friend on the Social Security number. One of the reasons we do collect that is for revenue recovery. We use an association called Texas Recovery Resources, and in order to try and collect funds when citizens leave our community and go to another one, you have to have a Social Security number to participate in that. So that is one of the reasons, in addition to identity theft and whatnot, that we collect their Social Security numbers.
Still disagree.
So, month of December ending, first quarter, our revenues in the general fund are coming in under budget so far. Our property tax is down $113,000 over our budgeted projected number. This is largely due to the fact no one paid us in November for property tax. Sales tax is down $79,000 from our budgeted number. Optimistic that it rebounds. Still have 9 months left in the year. As you can see, our revenues are $300,000 under our projected budget for the first quarter. Our expense categories, they're flipped the other way. We are very under budget as far as money spent in the general fund, to the tune of $1.1 million. Again, a lot of time left in the year, so I imagine both those figures will change, probably inversely. These are some lovely statistics. I won't bore y'all to tears. That you can find them on the financial page if you care to review them. I apologize for not having it in y'all's hands in advance of tonight's meeting, but it just breaks down by category where the surpluses are by expense. Hopping ahead to enterprise fund. Again, our revenues are not where we'd like to see them through the first quarter. As you can see, the water sales down $31,000. That is heavily influenced by the amount of rain or no rain that you get. Obviously, people are going to use more water whenever droughts are around. So again, those numbers are under our budgeted revenue numbers. And some of those are probably those people I was referring to earlier who have left the city and chose not to pay us. At any rate, overall, the expenses are under budget. It's got a healthy fund balance, and currently we're projecting a $300,000 return to fund balance. And if anyone has any questions, please jump in. Hotel motel, wow. First quarter numbers are looking good on the revenue. They're over our budgeted number by almost $60,000. So revenues are good. Expenses are under budget as well. So that fund's looking pretty healthy. Ooh, got past EDC. Again, as Gail mentioned earlier, they're a quarter of sales tax. Their numbers are coming in under budget as far as sales tax. Their interest income is over budget, and their expenses have remained on track. So that fund is looking healthy. And Crime District, again, a quarter-cent sales tax. Their revenues are under the budget for the first quarter. Chief is holding the expenses in check, so another positive outlook on that fund balance. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that y'all might have. You want? None? All right.
Okay. 6.2, City Manager update and report to City Council on various items that require no action, including Seabrook boards and commissions, transportation projects, City of Seabrook CIP projects.
All right, Mayor and Council, we had a little winter storm, so I thought I would post in some pictures that we were getting from our feed. And jump into, Kevin will, probably at some point, we can come back and do a proper post-event update to council. But I do want to give just a moment for those of you who may not know, with any emergency, your first responder departments are on call. So all these departments had to make arrangements to sleep overnight, starting at 5 o'clock on Monday, be away from their families and well until Wednesday, until the storm let up. So I'd like to just give a moment of our appreciation for these departments and what they gave up during this time that for many of us was joyful on Tuesday with family members and friends and kids, et cetera. But these departments did an amazing job. A lot of the work that they did was sometimes TxDOT doesn't respond in our area quickly. We know that we're going to have a lot of issues on the glazed over overpasses. All of our teams were well versed in that and quickly closed down those when they were iced over. Toddville is a county bridge. They're stretched thin during events like this. Luckily, we did not have any major waterline breaks, so our team was able to be deployed and clear some of those road surfaces. So they were extremely busy, thankfully not with waterline breaks, but keeping roads as clear as they could. We did have just the one major thing to report, which was the generator at the fire department. But other than that, things were going really well. 146 continues to wrap up. We do still have some planting beds along the corridor that are due for plantings. I've had many of you guys comment on the recent paintings for the logos and the sails. I will reach out to TxDOT with some of the color mismatch and coloring in the lines and all that good stuff. So they're not done, I know that, but I'll get a better report as far as making sure that those are completed when they do the walkthrough. We are still working on East Meyer debris, which ended up being not part of the 146 project, but we are working with the county to try to get that concrete removed from a county project. Our CIP updates, we are at 100% designs on the EMS fire station addition and renovation project for the bond project, and we are set to go out to bid late this month or February, and we'll be in full scope on that one. Speaking of ARPA projects, so the pickleball court did get completed. We do have the basketball court on Toddville that's completed, and we got word today that the awnings is one of the ARPA projects are in fabrication and they'll be coming in. So that will cover a number of our playground structures, and we do plan on doing some communications on all those successful projects. This is huge and monumental for the city. The wastewater treatment plant, Pine Gully Wastewater Plant, is about to be 100% turned over next week. It's looking to be Wednesday about 9 a.m. And we do plan on doing communications. We do plan on doing a video because this will be a very big moment for the city. So we will document it well as we bring down the old Faithful on Main Street here, and we will officially be turning it the last valve going up to Main Street. So we'll keep you posted on that. We're very excited as that project comes to an end. Our other projects, not much has moved since before the holidays, but 146 Interconnect is still in progress. Or Gion, we're still waiting on a connection, and Seascape is in bid process. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a few. So on the painting of the logos and the sails, thank you. It looks really good. I understand they have to do some touch up and fix it all, but it makes a huge difference with those sails painted. You know, some people even said, I kind of noticed the sails, but I didn't really notice them until they're painted. So that was a big deal, and I'm glad they're done. Blue looks really good. I know we were talking about multicolor. In the end, I think blue looks the best. Good job. Thank you. The other one is, again, thanks to the city. I knew some of the people that had to spend the night and do all the stuff during the snow. So I, again, appreciate that. Would like to know if there's any movement on the pier or a boat ramp, because I've been hearing a lot about that. There's been a bunch of Facebook postings on that. And then, of course, that triggers a bunch of people calling and asking about it. And then, and then on the wastewater treatment plant, I know I went out there the other day with Kevin and did his final walkthrough, and he showed us all. There's the plaque out there, and this current council is on there. But I understand it's when it's completed, that's who gets on the plaque, but I don't think there's anything wrong with putting the people who were a big part of that prior to this. Because the prior council to 2017, or right around then, when I originally got on in 2017, and there was other people that voted on that. Natalie and Jeff Larson, a bunch of different people. So maybe add another pack of other people that helped. That's just a thought. But anyway.
Any update on the pier?
So the pier, again, we've been working on employing by contract a grant writer, so that hopefully will be on the next agenda. And there are coastal grants at this point, other than council making a move to dip into any special funds. At this point, I see nothing other than a grant, and we'll try for that, but there's no further update. That project was designed, we've bid it. We know that the structural integrity to get something sustainable is approximately $2 million based on our last bid. And it's just funds on that one. So we will get the grant writer on, and we'll see if we have any luck with a professional grant writer going out after grants that we have been looking at outside of that scope. The boat ramp, I did put in a call to TxDOT, ran into that engineer. I think I reported right before the holidays, so same thing. I ran into the engineer. They are approaching about 85% complete on the design set. We talked early on, there's really only one design layout that they can come up with, and they're finishing that. They want to make sure they get that 100% in place, then they'll present it, that we can publicly show that. And they're still waiting on Corps of Engineer permits. So it is very much in motion. TxDOT has employed that contract, and it is moving, and they are fully in design.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Establish future meeting dates and agenda items.
Mayor and Council, Rachel wanted me to let you know, February 4th is your next regular council meeting at 6 p.m.
Thank you. 7.0, 7.1, Section 551.074, conduct a closed executive session to deliberate the evaluation and duties of the city manager. We are going into executive session. It's 8:49. From executive session, no action was taken. Do I hear a motion?
Move to adjourn. Second.
All in favor? It is 9:26.
Just so you know, we haven't even